my practice as far back as 20 years ago, well, expressing myself physically through painting, and I'm probably doing it the hardest way possible. Have a complete better sense of how to incorporate that into your brand. Because I love what I do, I work hard. People have to just stay true to what they know is in them and they're passionate about.
Today we've been lucky enough to come into Ash Keating's warehouse where a lot of his paintings are made. Ash, thank you for allowing us in here. We're keen to ask and explore your brain, explore your business. You're an artist and a couple of your paintings are behind us. So Ash, tell us a little bit about you, what got you into painting, or not painting specifically, but your art.
So good to have you here, Adam, and well, return. You've come and visited the studio. I actually have your old gym floor here.
Yes, yes, yes.
When you upgraded, I happily jumped in and got the tiles to keep
Keep your knees
keep
good.
the body good. But yeah, what in terms of where I'm 45 years old.
Yep.
Here in Coburg North, I'm in my latter years, you know, like a lot of my practice as far back as 20 years ago was, you know, being, I guess, well, expressing myself physically through painting.
Yeah.
And that's where I sort of got the joy for it, really.
Yeah.
Is like throwing pots of paint around, going out in the night, painting as well. But, you know, as a 17, 18, 25-year-old, like, the energy and the muscle is different. You don't have to work on it so much. But that's sort of, you know, what I try and channel still these days is like the initial mental and physical joy of learning that this is my craft and this is what I want to base my life around.
Yeah, so I think it's something that's really amazing about the artwork that you do. It's all from a fire extinguisher. So tell us a little bit about that element of things. How did you go, firstly, how did you start? So you started from young, and then how did you find fire extinguishers as the way that you apply the paint to the...
Sure. Yeah, well, these paintings here, they're all painted with an airless sprayer. And so everything in the studio, there are sometimes I make big 6-meter paintings and I use extinguishers in here, but extinguishers essentially are a large scale, an enlarged version of a smaller sprayer.
Yeah.
But they're a ready-made tool. They're not meant to be used for paint.
Yeah.
In the early 2000s, I think, like when I was getting free little mist tints from paint shops and paint any which way I could get it. A lot of aerosols would get blocked, and I'd ask a lot of graffiti writers for all their blocked cans. So I would puncture the aerosol to get the paint out really quick, or I'd throw pots of paint, these little tiny pots. And then I started using water to break down the paint on the surface. And that was like the late 90s, early 2000s, and then I was speaking to a graffiti writer in Richmond on a platform there when I was catching the train to uni, I think, and he said that graffiti writers in Europe were using these extinguishers to do big tags.
Oh, wow.
And then within weeks, there was a friend who was filming a lot of my paintings where I threw paint around. And there was a warehouse near him in Richmond, Jacques, which is now just apartments. But we went and filled up 2 wheelie bins full of these extinguishers at this old factory. And then I started experimenting with using them all through the CBD in Melbourne.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And so you've been starting this from young, right? When did you realise that you could actually turn this into your full-time career?
Well, it's been a long journey, and there was a period of about 6 years between 6 to 7 years between 2005 and 2011, 12 when I wasn't actually painting. I did painting at art school. I was mucking around with this abstract style very early, and then in undergrad painting, and then learning about contemporary art in uni and doing a lot of other projects led me down a path where I was doing a lot of installation art, conceptual projects. I was invited into many important group exhibitions, and some of them were traveling internationally. I was flown to Chile in 2006, like when I was studying my honours year at VCA, which was just a 1 year when I went back to art school. But by that point I wasn't even painting. So I was exploring a lot of like non-painting related art for about 6-7 years. But then it wasn't really until you know, I guess those projects, they had artist fees attached, and there was, you know, traveling costs and certain things, but it was few and far between, and it wasn't a self-sustaining full-time practice. But I guess around 2009, my mother died in a car accident, and within maybe 18 months of that, I was doing a few art projects that were very, I guess, community related and orientated, and I was passionate about those for a good amount of time. But going through grief and life and just where I was at in 2011-12, I wanted to start painting again, just to physically make work, because I'd lost the love for making art. And so I really had to like just channel what got me back in, got me into art. And those paintings, those big scale wall paintings with the extinguishers were certainly the most energetic and lively way of making art that I'd done to date. So I returned to that in 2012.
Yeah, cool. And like you said, those big lively ones, but I've even seen you do some bigger projects. Like you've done a whole house and done things like that. So do you want to take us through a little bit of the journey? Like you've done, what's the highest painting? Is it 10 meters? What's that?
Yeah,
those canvases or?
I've done a fair few big scale projects. They're mostly like self-initiated, and a lot of my projects like are self-initiated. A lot of them, the largest works from a decade ago, whether it's walls in industrial parks, like the one I have in Craigieburn, still there. They're all passion projects that I do outside of paid projects or commissions. Because often commissions aren't necessarily the big wall that I want to be painting on. It may be an interesting surface and it's good money, but it's not why I got into making art, like, and chose a life of making art. So I guess the larger works, for the most part, are kind of something I aspire to do whenever I can. And they're actually only a fraction of the scale I'd love to be doing.
Yeah, okay.
You know, I think what I kind of put out in the world in my own, like I decide to kind of do my own art projects outside of what people pay me to do. They're like just little kind of sketches for what I'd love to be doing on a massive scale that I haven't been able to actually do. So like when it comes to kind of like, there's levels to kind of like where I want to be. And while like these big 10 by 50 meter projects might seem like the biggest project I've done, they're only like a microcosm of what I want to be doing.
Yeah, right. Because I knew that you went to BTV, the festival, and you did like a live performance there in front of people, which would have been really cool to see. You've done houses, and you know, it's pretty cool for you to still have those ambitions, considering you're on the side of the National Art Museum. And that would have been huge. Like that's a convention center specific to art. So I guess how'd that come about, like that project?
Well, yeah, I mean, that question in itself, how did that project come about, or any others, is so interesting in relation to being an artist. And like, I find myself going down different pathways or getting invited into opportunities that, for the most part, those things happen because I choose to do one of those self-initiated projects. And then I put that out there, and it gets picked up, and then it creates another opportunity.
Yeah.
So often it's like thinking about like what you want to be doing, making it happen, putting it out there, and then there are people that may respond to that and bring you in on that. And that's what happened with the NGV banner painting in 2013. It was just fortunate that I was part of the exhibition that was on there, Melbourne Now.
Yeah.
And they'd collected a video of a big painting project where I'd painted a large wall out in Truganina. And that video was part of the exhibition, but then they invited me to paint the banner as part of the exhibition.
Wow.
That in itself was kind of a, like that style was with the abstract gravity flow using extinguishers. And I'd done that in Melbourne like through 2003, 2004, 5. So a lot of people knew of that work, but it was the first time they'd seen it in a long time when I returned to making. And it was a small fee project, often like a project on that scale, like it might seem like it's a massive fee, but you take it on because you know, like it's got money can't buy value to it.
Yeah.
I guess for me, it's about creating an awareness or a small window into what I can do. Even if that is on a big scale, it's allowing people to see that. And with the NGV banner, a lot of architects, interior designers, they saw that work, and then year in, year out, I would create a project that then might have led to another, or 10 years down the track, people do come to me and say, we'd seen this project, and we've just been waiting for the right project to invite you in on. So without kind of like deviating too much in this, like I find, you know, I have to be aware when, I don't know when work is coming.
Yeah.
But I have faith that I've created so many projects over the last sort of 10 to 15 years that more often than not, my next client is coming to me saying they'd seen this and they were just waiting for the right thing.
Yeah.
Or when it comes to studio painting, a similar thing. Like there's a young couple that just got married and they'd followed my work for, you know, best part of 7 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And I'd never met them. I met them a year ago and they said, we're getting married, we want to buy ourselves a wedding gift of a painting.
Yeah, nice.
You know, and so that personal like connection and story on a smaller scale compared to maybe an architect that had me in mind for a wall commission, like there are all these sort of things that have happened and keep happening. And so I have faith that that if I just keep making quality work, and I always make sure my projects are of the highest quality, and then, you know, things will work out.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing, like specifically about what you said, you technically don't really know when your next job is going to come. You don't actually know when your next, I guess, pay slip will come. So you really have to have faith in the work that you put out, that it's going to do the work for you. How do you then juggle, like this is your business, this is your life. How do you juggle that? There's the weeks where no one's come to you for artwork, and there's weeks where everyone comes to you for your artwork. So a lot of weeks of no income, a lot of weeks of income. So how do you juggle that as an artist? Because other people that would be considering this as their career would need to understand that you might not get paid every week.
There's different ways that I look at it all the time. And right now with like, you know, global kind of uncertainty, it's, you know, unprecedented, all that kind of thing. Diesel, I use it to run my van. But I've also been through tricky times with the pandemic. I lost 3 massive jobs, probably, over $300,000 of art projects, killed within months of COVID. And I was scrambling coming out of the first lockdown, doing small murals once every week for, a third of the price that I would normally do it for, But I'd just adapt and hustle and push. And, going all the way back to the original GFC, like 15, 20 years ago, what was that, 2008? I held an exhibition within months after that, and it's hard sometimes, like in those periods, because like art is of least concern to certain people. For the majority of people, it's like the last thing they're kind of thinking about. And I don't feel like hustling right now to try and sell paintings, I've got a project on the go, which I'm grateful for, but the forecast after that is kind of uncertain. But in that downtime, it's the time I've hoped all along for, like free time to be able to make painting.
Yeah.
And whether it's in the studio or off-site projects, I need to not worry about like where things are, where things are at. Like, this is exactly what I'd hope for, free time. Like, because when things are really hectic and I've got lots of projects on the go, commissions, and it's non-stop, like there's barely time to kind of like really live properly in terms of connect with friends, like have a regular kind of rhythm, be able to go to the gym,
Yeah.
Like, as much as I kind of want these ambitious projects that are beyond what I've ever done, the reality of like life to do that is actually like scary, to have to like the energy that it takes just to be making work daily, have good balance, eat well, go to the gym.
Yeah. Difficult.
I've been in the last couple of years kind of just trying to be more okay with doing less.
Yeah.
And my ambition can be there still, but I don't need to kind of push myself beyond. And if I do have downtime between lots of commissions or projects, like I'll kind of bring that back into the studio and have free time to create. And often that leads to new directions and new projects.
So it's like any business, you're just trying to find that balance. There's going to be times where they're really hectic. And during those hectic times where you've got, a few projects on the run, you also spoke about quality of your work. Now, it's not like a job that it's going to take 30 minutes to do this task. It takes time, energy. So how do you kind of keep that quality high? How do you know, when your paintings are done in your eye, whilst maintaining that quality? Because I know you've spoken to me about it before. You're like, I'm not just going to put any piece of artwork out there. This is your name, it's your reputation. So how do you do that?
Yeah, I think, look, it's different in different scenarios. In here, I can get caught up with like working forever on layering works and not having deadlines and clients, and often that does lead to kind of maybe pushing paintings further than they should have gone, but that's part of the risk, like in terms of knowing when to stop making a studio painting. I think it's easier to kind of like mess that up when you don't have deadlines, because you're kind of trying to push towards like this kind of perfection that may or may not come out, right?
Yeah.
Whereas on work sites, doing a courtyard commission or what have you, they want to know how I'm fitting in with other trades.
Yeah.
And an idea of how the work's going to look, whether it's a commission based off of a previous work or what the processes are. So I think it's more often, it has to be more planned that way. And there's no, for me, like there's no kind of right or wrong in terms of the processes. I can still make good work on that deadline if it has to be 2 days or 2 weeks in between other trades. And that's when you're kind of in the real world,
Yeah.
as opposed to here, kind of in your own head.
Yeah.
Which I like, actually, the reality check of that, and having to interact with real world
Yeah,
is
yeah.
kind of quite important. Even just going to the gym and speaking to other people, or, you know, like, it gets very intense if you're in your own kind of realm here, making work in that way.
And is there ever been an art piece where you've worked on it for hours and hours and hours, and then you've realised you might have pushed it too far, and then you have to just accept
Plenty.
axing it or anything like that?
Plenty. Like that, I think that's the way where you kind of learn what the processes are, what they do, how they can kind of make or break work. And that's what leads to being able to make better decisions down the line. But yeah, I've ruined many works and destroyed many works, and you know, have quality control with that. And I've also probably been too cautious at times with work, like, and not wanted to push it too far in case it kind of
You lose it.
didn't get there, and or it went too far. But I think that I don't like working like that, and at times I'll go back to work and see where it kind of probably could have been explored a bit further.
Yeah. Now you spoke about, you know, putting the mats in here and the way the you know, the studio is kind of laid out. Your body is the biggest part of your art. Obviously, you know, moving around, moving out like the extinguishers, wherever you're outbound, whatever you're doing. For people that are wanting to get into this line of work, right, you got to keep your body in a good position. They're your tools, right? How would you advise people the things they could do to make sure that their body stays good? I know, you know, carpal tunnel, I'm not sure if that's something you've experienced, or any injuries that you've experienced because of the work. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. As I said to you the other day when I saw the interview with Pinar, and she mentioned having carpal tunnel as a hairdresser. I mean, I've recently dealt with that, and a few other kind of repetitive movement injuries, and that's kind of the repetition in my practice and the meditation of that. It's a beautiful thing, but also it's a precarious one too. And so I've just learnt how to kind of manage that as it's come into my life as I get a bit older, and like going to physio, having PT, getting remedial. All of the things are very important overall, and getting acupuncture when I'm in the middle of a job, and you know, it's like an athlete getting treatment on the sidelines kind of thing. Like sometimes when things are really hectic, I've got to kind of get treatment to keep me moving, you know.
Keep it going.
But yeah, it's all kind of learning, I guess. It's a late, like, I don't know, but I think it's a later life thing. But I think it's good to kind of like get into, be aware of these things early on to prevent them from coming in on your life, I guess, in terms of what people do in their own business and personal lives and hobbies and that kind of thing. Yeah, it's tricky when the main things that you do create injuries, like a golfer's elbow. I barely get to play golf. Like I play maybe once every year or two, just with a friend, and hit a few good shots. But when I was told I had golfer's elbow, I was like, what? What is that? And then trying to working it out with the remedial, the physio, and then with the PT to do the right kind of movements that'll kind of allow me to get through that and then thrive after it. And then it changes the way I think about how to lift things or work with things when I'm not actually doing the main work. There's a lot of kind of careless lifting of like 20 or 15-litre drums of paint, which I wouldn't do as much anymore.
Yeah. We might need to bring some of those into the gym and then we train you doing these on a repetitive motion.
Yes.
Now, I was lucky enough to meet you. You know, you're a client, train with Robbie and stuff. And we came to one of your, exhibitions.
Yep.
I think it was last year.
Yep.
It was last year. I think a big key question that a lot of people would want to know is income. You know, you're still a business, you're trying to bring income. So what are things you do, like exhibitions, you do those commissions, jobs, like how, if someone wanted to become a full-time artist and they don't know how to actually sustain revenue, we spoke about, you've got faith in their work that people will come to you, but how do you actually make money?
Well, I guess it's quite specific to me and the way that my income comes in compared to all different artists and creatives. Yep. I think it's good to have parallel and multiple kind of avenues of income, and I probably don't have enough and want to kind of work on that going forward. So it's not kind of a fixed thing that's working for me. I mean, I have mural projects. They're sometimes private, sometimes out in the open, in the public sphere. Clients in the past, less so in recent years, like were councils, and but I haven't done those types of jobs for several years. But I guess when I've got certain projects that come in, I think about kind of like how to best budget for the materials that are of the highest quality, but then still I've got kind of extra money to do my passion projects.
Yeah.
And I guess at the moment, success for me in reality is paying the council rates or paying the electricity bills, and a surplus to keep doing my own passion projects in between. That's kind of success on a actual and small scale. And if I was aspiring to being able to actually do the projects that I want to do, they'd be $1 million projects, and I'd be investing in those as opposed to buying a house. So my success and trajectory to attaining success is not about material needs or making money off my work. It's never been about making money off my work. While I love what I do, I would be doing something else if I wanted money.
Yeah.
And so you have to be passionate about what you do, and you're not always going to be doing what you want to be doing when you're making your money, even creatively. So I love what I do enough that the small surplus is just siphoned back into what I want to be doing.
The thing is, you can really hear your passion for it. I think it's really amazing to hear. You pretty much just broke it down to you're doing what you love to do. As long as you're making enough money to pay the bills and you can keep doing your passion, it's amazing. Now, there would be times where you'd be exhausted, burnt out. I've heard of like writer's block, artist block. Like, have you gone through a point where you're just like, your brain's just not functioning, like making the arts, your brain's not doing it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I have my painting processes and the abstract painting, one mark leads to another, and I don't necessarily have like a creative block in terms of making work, whether it's, what I have is like a realistic block.
Yeah.
In terms of only so much hours I have energy and capable in the day, but also not pushing myself enough that I would be creating an injury. And then, so there's the limitations, and also like you said, if I'm working too hard, kind of, pushing yourself kind of into tired zones where you're not fresh enough to be making work. I mean, I more than anything, I just struggle with like capacity,
Yeah.
whether that's time, energy, but I'm better at kind of being okay with like understanding that that's the reality you have to work around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've kind of spoken as well about the projects you've done. Like, you've been on the side of the gallery, you've done big projects, and I want to just hear, I guess, you want to go bigger and bigger. Like, you've done a house, right? How much bigger can you go? Like, what's the goal? Like, what would you be like? Sweet.
Yeah, well, I've got like multiple projects I'd love to do. Like, there's ones on like multi-million-dollar scale, which can't kind of divulge the details.
Yeah.
But I don't think it'll necessarily even happen. But there are ideas and detail to projects that involve like massive crews, like crews of, dozens of the very best in photographers, the very best in videographers. You've got project management, you've got lighting. You're basically creating a production, a Tarantino-esque movie. Those kind of budgets to do a massive scale painting process. Because often people love the seeing how the work is made.
Yeah.
And there's an energy to it. There's scale of the person to the large scale of the painting. And it's being able to capture that in the highest quality, like formats. And so while I'm good at documenting my work and I use like good Nikon cameras, like okay cameras, okay lenses, and often I can employ people to come in and photograph or film me for some projects. I mean, I'm talking about doing it on a scale that you need hundreds of thousands of dollars at a minimum, or bigger projects that are even, just using the highest quality gear.
Let's say someone wants to do what you're doing, young, ambitious. What's a piece of advice you'd give them?
I think that like right now, as far as I know, like I'm going to do a workshop in Southeast next week, and people that run the gallery there that I had a big exhibition with, they said earlier today when I was on a Zoom meeting with them that I'll be talking to students like that, looking at their future, and now more than ever that like people are scared of going into making art or being an artist or being creative in any way, whether it's digital artists working in AI or creative people that paint thinking they can't make money. But it's no different now to like in the late 90s when there was no internet, and my parents were like supportive of me being a painter, but my graphic design teacher was like speaking to them about saying maybe he's more likely to have a good career in graphics. And there was this kind of like, I got perfect marks for graphics and art, and I studied 1.5 years of graphic design at Monash, and it just wasn't for me. I was like, because I wasn't passionate about it, I was failing. And within the second year, I moved across to painting at Monash and haven't looked back. But so I think that like people can tell you that you're not going to make money out of something, or it's going to be too hard for you in this world. Like, but if you know that you are good at something, it makes you feel incredible. You think that you can carve a path out of it. You can't be worried about like, the fear that is built around these types of industries. I think outside of just being a painter, and I'm probably doing it the hardest way possible, there are so many interesting creative people that make apparel, that make clothing, that make all different types of objects that have and must have a creative component as the feature of the products, and globally there's just so many companies that are built off creativity. So I think that like young people are kind of fearful, I guess, of the ignorance around creativity. Whereas if you study arts or creativity in any realm, you could go into management of a gallery or a clothing brand that uses creativity and have a complete better sense of how to incorporate that into your brand.
Yeah.
So I think that people have to just stay true to what they know is in them and they're passionate about. For me, like, I love what I do. I work so hard at it.
Amazing. Really sounds good, Ash. We appreciate If you found value from this episode, be sure to follow along for the remainder of our 1330 series. And if you want to support Ash, be sure to check out his details below.